Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Thursday, July 18th. Today is day 286. Just a reminder, in case you're interested, we do still have our weekly live briefings every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we summarize what's happened in the Middle East, specifically in Gaza, but where there's violence and escalations over the past week. So please encourage others to join us. Last night, Wednesday night in Israel, the Knesset voted overwhelmingly against Palestinian statehood, challenging historic U.S. policy in support of a two-state solution. CNN, a number of other international news outlets summarized the decision of the Israeli parliament. They made clear their position. The vote was 68-9 that rejected any creation of a Palestinian state. The Knesset issued a declaration stating, "The Knesset of Israel firmly opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. The establishment of a Palestinian state in the heart of the land of Israel would pose an existential danger to the state of Israel, its citizens, perpetuating the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and destabilize the region." This is considered by many to be yet another rebuff of the U.S. and the Biden administration by the government of Israel, because the two-state solution is the official policy of the United States government. In Israel, the far-right National Security Minister Ben-Gvir visited the Al-Aqsa compound, the Temple Mount. He said he went to pray for the return of the hostages, quote, without a reckless deal. He's in opposition to any negotiated settlement. Palestinians said police prevented entry to the site for Palestinian worshippers while Ben-Gvir was there on his visit. Jordan's foreign ministry condemned the move as provocative. You'll recall, officially, the Jordanians and the Waqf has authority over the Temple Mount, but in actuality, the Israeli police typically are the ones who make the governing decisions. Having been accused of not being operational on October 7th, Israel's Air Force commander dismissed allegations that there was no operational, dismissed those allegations, and said that there was no, that there were no capacity issues that day. Israel's been facing a troop shortage, so the mandatory military service has been extended. It was 32 months for men previously. That's been extended to 36 months. And that extension will apply for the next 5 years. The defense minister in Israel, Gallant, said that the first 1,000 IDF enlistment orders to be sent to members of the ultra-Orthodox community have now been issued, or they will go out actually this next Sunday. You'll recall there are concerns that this could trigger the ultra-Orthodox members of Netanyahu's cabinet, or coalition at least, to leave. If 2 more members of the coalition leave, the Netanyahu government would fall. As of yet, that's not currently being discussed on the immediate horizon. In Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces in Shin Bet said that they killed Anas Murad, who's the head of the Islamic Jihad naval force in Gaza City, and another Hamas member who they say participated in October 7th. The IDF said a soldier was moderately wounded during the army's efforts to secure the passage of aid trucks through Gaza's humanitarian corridor. In Rafah, Netanyahu said he's more convinced than ever to retain control over the border crossing with Egypt, that he's convinced that this is necessary. And Palestinian news reported that 3 people were killed in an attack on a car on Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. Most likely because that report is not saying it's by Israeli forces. Most likely that's because there's been so much unrest. There's no alternative. There's Hamas has been in control, or there's been the Israeli military, and there's been no alternative until now. And so there's been so much unrest in Gaza. In a joint operation with Shin Bet security forces, the IDF said an Israeli aircraft attacked and killed 20 Hamas militants from Hamas Shati battalion, including Nakba terrorists, spotters, and snipers. And so that was a report from the IDF that came out today. And Netanyahu said that he would not approve a decision by Defense Minister Gallant to establish a field hospital in Israel that would treat children from Gaza. A few other reports coming from Gaza. 54 Palestinians have been killed in the last 24 hours as Israel's military has intensified their strikes. The focus in the last 24 hours has been primarily on central Gaza, where thousands of people who have been displaced are reportedly, quote, drowning in sewage. Israel has reduced by 94% the amount of water available in Gaza. And a new report by Oxfam has said, quote, that they are creating a deadly health catastrophe, end quote. U.S. aid said that nearly the entire population of Gaza is in need of food assistance, and that the vast majority lack access to clean water and have for months. And Saudi Arabia has denounced the nonstop attacks on Gaza this past week, calling them a part of a series of repeated violations by the Israeli war machine against defenseless civilians. A senior commander of Hamas allied group in Lebanon has been killed in an Israeli airstrike. And there continue to be fears that this could escalate to a broader Middle East war. And in terms of updates on the hostage negotiations and ceasefire negotiations, the ultra-Orthodox Shas party called on Netanyahu today to finalize the hostage deal. They said, we believe that the conditions are present, that it's the appropriate time, make this deal happen, bring the hostages home. The Likud, there are two ministers who called to immediately fire far-right Minister Smotrich for threatening to leave the coalition if a hostage deal is reached. And so you can still hear these tensions, within the Israeli government, that some are calling for hostage deals, others are opposed. Ben-Gvir, also a far-right minister in Israel, reportedly said at a cabinet meeting that making a reckless deal now would endanger not only Israel, but be a slap in the face of Trump and would be a win for Biden. And we have heard certainly that part of the goal, I heard this when I was on the ground in May, part of the goal of the Netanyahu regime is to keep the ongoing atrocities in Gaza going until there is a change of president here after the vote in November. And you hear that from Smotrich and Ben-Gvir. Thousands rallied today in Israel calling for a deal to secure the release of hostages in Gaza. There were also protests, and 2 protesters were arrested in Haifa. And the parents of Israeli-American hostage Omer Nutra spoke at the Republican National Convention saying that the October 7th attack was not just an attack on Israel, but it was and remains an attack on Americans. And they said, where is the outrage? And it's interesting because I don't think that they mean where's the outrage on the ongoing atrocities happening in Gaza, as today is the 286th day. But I feel like I'm astounded that the majority of American news sources are not talking about what's happening in Gaza anymore. 9 months in, and you still have dozens and dozens of deaths every day. And the vast majority of American news is not talking about Gaza anymore. Hamas has said that Jabara, a Hamas commander, was killed in a drone attack in Lebanon. A car was also attacked in southern Lebanon. Israel reported that they attacked Hezbollah military targets, so escalations have continued on that border. An Israeli was wounded by shrapnel in a car explosion in Harmesh, which is a settlement in the West Bank. An explosive device was suspected to be activated near the car. That happened in the West Bank in the last 24 hours. 3 people were arrested in Spain and 1 in Germany on suspicion of belonging to a network that supplied Hezbollah with parts to build kamikaze drones that are being used in the attacks in North Israel. That's according to Spanish authorities. I wanted to give a quick update on the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. It may be snuck into the defense spending bill on Capitol Hill. This is according to The Forward, a Jewish news outlet. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act sailed through the House in May with bipartisan support, despite concerns from some top Democratic lawmakers that it will stifle free speech. The bill would codify the requirement for the Education Department to use a controversial definition that classifies anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. Honestly, it goes so far as to saying that some critiques of Israeli policies are anti-Semitism. So the idea is that some proponents say that it would address anti-Semitism on college campuses. Pennsylvania's Bob Casey resurrected this legislation last week in an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act, which determines military spending. It's one of the few pieces of legislation that reliably sails through a gridlocked Congress. The amendment would likely need the support of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. It's opposed by Bernie Sanders, who might be more open. Schumer might be more open to accepting the amendment, which wouldn't require him to hold a potentially divisive vote separate from the approval of the defense spending bill. So we'll keep our eye on that. Also, watch for tomorrow. The International Court of Justice is set to announce its decision regarding the legality of Israel's occupation over the West Bank. Senior Israeli officials have said they believe the ICJ will rule that Israel is permanently occupying the West Bank in violation of international law. Also, on Tuesday this past week, the Center for Constitutional Rights issued a press release demanding information on the United States' interference with the International Criminal Court's probe of Israel's crimes against Palestinians in Gaza. The Center for Constitutional Rights, CCR, launched a formal inquiry following the Biden administration's efforts to block the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Defense Minister Gallant. I was going to give a little history of that, but let me know if you have questions about it. I think my closing comment is we get asked regularly and we get criticized by people on all sides about CMEP's rhetoric. What does Churches for Middle East Peace say about genocide? Do we use that language? We talk regularly about the prevention of genocide. We quote experts who've used the language of genocide. When we speak on behalf of millions of American Christians and 35 member communions who have to unanimously agree on our policy positions. And all of them agree that we should quote experts and that we are committed to the prevention of genocide, to identifying what's happening as mass atrocities and ethnic cleansing. I'm so tired of people getting upset about the language that's being used. Death, murder, destruction, mass killings, ethnic cleansing, genocide, obliteration, massacres, slaughters are happening in Gaza. And we're criticized daily about the terms. And I just want to say people, Let's focus on stopping killing and stopping death and stopping destruction. I mean, I get that words matter. I really, really do. But I go to the book of James in the New Testament that says, show me your faith. Show me by what you do, not by what you say. We're working around the clock, literally, and every single day since October 7th to end the massacres, to end the death, to end the destruction. And I want to say to sometimes these people, like, what are you doing? And I'm sorry, because I know I mean, I don't want to think more highly of ourselves than we ought. And we have so much to learn, and we want to learn, and we want to be in conversation, and we want to be better. But we have to come together, and some of us need to be the prophetic voices that are out there speaking and that are pushing, and some of us have to bring other people along, and just let's stop fighting within the movement and continue to be focused on ending the atrocities, because there are so many and people are dying every single day. And so may we do everything we can to make it stop. Lord have mercy. Christ have mercy. Amen.